This nation must end this culture of leaks. We will investigate and seek to bring criminals to justice. We will not allow rogue anonymous sources with security clearances to sell out our country. The Department of Justice is open for business, and I have this warning for would-be leakers: don't do it.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions putting leakers on lockdown. Just this week, a series of leaks detailing President Trump's conversations with foreign leaders, his conversations with military leaders. And then the revelation, Special Counsel Robert Mueller is impaneling a grand jury in the Russia investigation. Now, despite all of this, stocks are soaring and jobs are jumping. But someone here says you can kiss this good news goodbye if the leaks keep coming. Hi, everybody. I'm Dagen McDowell. This is Bulls and Bears. The Bulls and Bears this week: Gary B. Smith, Jonas Max Ferris, John Layfield, along with Hadley Heath Manning and Jamoo Green. Welcome to everybody. John, you say we need to stop the drip, drip, drip of the leaks right now.
Yeah, for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, whoever is leaking confidential information to the United States of America is a traitor. Not in the same vein necessarily as a Ames or a Rosenberg or a Benedict Arnold, but they are a traitor to our country. They are also, second, undermining the president's ability to get things done. You look at the presidents who got great things done in their first year of office. They had a mandate. You had FDR, you had Ronald Reagan. President Obama had a mandate, got Obamacare passed. President Trump is losing that right now because of this erosion of confidence in the White House. And a lot of it comes because of this leaks that it looks like, whether it's true or not, the White House is in chaos. At 4.3% unemployment, Lyndon Johnson had a 4.2% unemployment, the lowest that we've had since measured. But his GDP was 5%. We are less than half of that right now, and the reason is because we have a gridlock Congress who will not get anything done in tax reform, in oversee repatriation of money, or immigration. This all rests on things like this leaks that cause gridlock in Congress.
Hadley, if we don't put a stop to these leaks and really investigate the way that Attorney General Jeff Sessions is talking about, does it put Trump's pro-growth agenda at risk?
I think it does. You know, these leaks, especially the ones that pertain to conversations with international leaders, could also be a security issue, which is a different issue. But when it comes to the domestic economic agenda that President Trump promised that he said he would get done, health reform, tax reform, absolutely, those things will be critical to putting more Americans back to work. We see the labor force participation rate still at 62.9. That's pretty low considering historical averages. But there's absolutely one benefit to having President Trump in the White House, and that will be true regardless of whether or not health and tax reform gets done, and that is that this administration is pro-business. They are friendly to business. They believe that regulation should be scaled back instead of promulgated. And so there's going to be, I think, an upside for the market regardless of what gets done in Congress. That said, I'm still hopeful about tax reform.
But Gary B., if these leaks continue and they continue to damage our role in the world, our relationships with world leaders, what does that do to the economy and the market? This is called, remember, you've been here from day one, the cost of freedom. There is a cost to this kind of behavior.
Well, there's two issues. The one that John brought up, the sensitive data issue, that's certainly an issue. And if there's anything embarrassing that comes out, if there's anything illegal that Trump did, if there's anything that goes counter to the platform he ran on, that was going to be damaging. But to Hadley's point, I think she had it. Dagen, at this point, it's all white noise. It's becoming like, yeah, I just hear this buzz. Scaramucci's fired one day. You got a new chief of staff the next day. Mueller this, Mueller that. I don't even know where we are with the Russian stuff, for crying out loud. That seems to be swirling around. So I think people are starting now to focus on the business and the economy, and they're starting to think, I know I am, that as much as I would like Trump to get something done, and I agree with what Hadley and John said, he is pro-business, he's not going to be any worse than Obama. So even if nothing gets done, and I'm expecting nothing to get done, that's the sad truth, I think the economy still chugs along, not as high as it could be, and I think the market goes along with it.
But can the economy, Jammu, keep chugging along if we have what is, with those transcripts that were leaked to the Washington Post, that is a betrayal. It is a betrayal to any world leader who might have a conversation with our president.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. The entire situation is a hot mess. The President of the United States should be able to have confidential conversations. This is drastically undermining his ability and the White House's ability to conduct foreign policy. But there's a third aspect to this also, because it's also showing world leaders and business leaders that the president isn't as smart and strategic as he tries to make himself out to be in these calls. The conversation he's having, that's not a master negotiator. It's somewhat of a joke, and that's going to undermine our ability, I think, to project strength, whether it's on the economy or on foreign policy. And so, yes, these leaks need to come to a stop. It's somewhat interesting, karma, when you have a president who benefited and kind of encouraged leaks to now be suffering from this. But we should all look at this as being unacceptable.
Well, Jonas, even the top, Mark Warner, the Democratic senator from Virginia, wants an investigation into the leak of these transcripts. But it does put, if our relationships with these leaders, if that is damaged, it puts the trade agenda at risk. It makes it harder for us to fight the war on terror, and that does impact the economy.
Okay, first of all, I don't agree with the Wizard of Oz would have ended earlier if we had leaks that said the wizard was running Oz before he got exposed with the curtain. But the point I'm trying to make here is that if you are basing your policies on clamping down on leaking, then you need that to happen in order to get anything done. I have some bad news for you, because there is a roaring bull market in leaks, and it's been growing for years now. That's why Obama went after more people for leaking than any president before him, and there's more now than there was under Obama.
Yeah,
let me just say,
they went after a lot of journalists too, including James Rosen, where he was labeled a co-conspirator.
Apple just had a huge leak over their next iPhone, and now we know all this stuff about it, and I can assure you that has more economic impact than half the stuff coming out of the White House. And if they can't clamp down on leaking, at Apple, the best-run company possibly of all time in the world, I'm pretty sure Jeff Sessions is going to have a hard time stopping leaking. So let's get away from the stop the leaking, and then we'll have all the great policy. It's not going to go away anytime soon.
John, how about prison? How about prison to discourage you from leaking?
It's a felony. Look, if you're releasing classified information, it's a felony with 10 years in prison. It depends upon what you're releasing, but this is a crime. Look, it's same if you work for Apple and you release the iPhone to your competitor Samsung. You're rooting against your own country, your company. In this case, you're rooting against your own country. I'm rooting for President Trump. I did not vote for President Trump. I voted for Michael Bloomberg as a write-in, but I'm rooting for him. I rooted for President Obama, too, and it blows me away that people are out there saying, oh, it's kind of good that we got these leaks because we find out that Trump is not as good a negotiator as we thought. That is rooting against your own country, and to me, I don't see how that's inexcusable.
Right. Gary B., to quote one of the articles in the National Review, it's like for 9 seconds of media time, somebody leaked these transcripts just so we could find out that President Trump is President Trump, that Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And you endanger our relationships with all these world powers and world leaders just for a little bit of media attention.
Well, look, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with what John said. There should be prison. This is illegal. That's definite. And if Trump did not already, for whatever reason, have a diminished status in the world, these leaks certainly don't help. Will that hurt our policies? Absolutely. I mean, look at what things he said to Australia, which has been a close ally of us for years and years. I mean, God knows what he said on some of the other calls that may or may not be leaked. Yes, that is damaging. But back to the main point, can the economy continue to chug along? Will people still download a Netflix movie? Absolutely.
Final word, Gary B. Thank you, guys.